What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? NoZoupForYou here, and before I kick off the subject for today, just a reminder once again, I have not heard back from the Friesland winner. You know your name. I sent you an email. I put it in the video yesterday. Please get back to me. I don't want to re-roll this for a third time. I've never had to re-roll 3 times, and I will if I have to. I gotta give this Friesland away to someone, and it's a great destroyer, so the fact that it's still hanging out there is just quite baffling to me. I'm vexed. I'm absolutely vexed. So hopefully the winner will get to me, and I'll be able to give it to him. If not, we will re-roll. And I guess I'll do that when I roll for the Udachi, the Ark Royal, and the Thunderer. And I'll just wind up giving away 4 ships at the same time. But on to the main topic of today's video. I wanted to talk about this current season of Ranked Sprint. For those of you playing right now, you already know that it's Tier 8. For those of you not playing right now, it's Tier 8. And quite honestly, I'm happy about this. And the reason I'm happy it's Tier 8 is I love Tier 8. Tier 8 is probably, well, I take that back. Tier 8 is not necessarily my favorite tier, but Tier 8 has some of my favorite ships in the entire game. And it's unfortunate what's happened to Tier 8 because it really kind of gets overshadowed and just absolutely slaughtered by Tiers 9 and Tier 10, especially Tier 10. And even more so lately with ships like Smolensk and Colbert, ships that just absolutely slaughter the Tier 8 ships out there. But I love Tier 8. Bismarck's one of my favorite ships in the game. Absolutely love the Bismarck. Kutuzov is an old classic. It's a favorite of many. Tirpitz is the same. Tirpitz was one of the first premiums out there that you could possibly buy. There's a lot of ships to love in Tier 8. And more recently, you've got the Massachusetts. To a lesser extent, you've got the Alabama. You've got ships like the North Carolina. They're an absolute blast to play. They've got really, really strong tech tree ships at Tier 8 that can hang. You don't have to play a premium if you don't want to at Tier 8. There are plenty of ships on the tech tree lines that you can play. Amagi's even decent. It's not the greatest, and, you know, it's a little squishy, but it's still workable. And destroyer-wise, you've got some great destroyers out there, too. You've got the Kid, you've got the Cossack. I mean, there is a lot to love at this tier. But for some reason, this season of Sprint just really isn't catching on with players. It's not catching fire. I've seen a lot of rumblings and a lot of grumblings right now that players just aren't enjoying it. And I think part of the reason for that might be the inclusion of aircraft carriers. And I'll be honest, I've played them a couple times, and they do make a huge difference. And if you've got one round where a player is pretty good at aircraft carriers and the other player is not, you can really feel the difference right there. It makes a pretty big factor in the game because the player that knows what they're doing in aircraft carriers is going to do what they have to do to win. They're going to start going after the destroyers first thing. That's what I do. I get the destroyer spotted, I go after them. Once they're gone, I move on to the other targets, do my spotting, provide air protection. All the things that a good player does, and all the things that a player that is not quite as good at aircraft carriers usually doesn't do. And in a ranked setting on 7v7, that makes a huge difference. Those are the things that can help you win. Providing air support for your destroyers, that's huge right there. Putting fighters above them to keep enemy planes away, that's huge, especially if you only have one destroyer in the round. You lose that destroyer early on, you're in trouble, because then you're relying on the aircraft carrier to do the spotting for you. And if you're on that team that has the aircraft carrier player that's not quite as good, then that spotting takes an even bigger hit. So I think a lot of the animus towards this season of ranked gameplay is centered around the inclusion of aircraft carriers. I've also heard grumblings that it's 7-on-7. Now, for me, that really doesn't bother me quite as much. 6-on-6, 7-on-7, either way, it's ranked. You've got one team versus another team. I don't know that having 7 ships versus 6 ships is going to make that much of a difference. All it means is there's going to be more battleships, or there's going to be a destroyer, or you're going to have that odd aircraft carrier in your round. No big deal to me. Now this begs an even bigger question that I have regarding this season of ranked gameplay, and this is somewhat rhetorical. I'm just kind of asking it out in the open, even though I'm going to answer it myself. Should Tier 8 even be in ranked sprint? And the reason I'm saying this is, if you recall all the lower tiers that we've had in ranked sprint, the gameplay is a lot more frantic, it goes a lot quicker, usually, not always. There's some rounds that do last the full 20 minutes, but it's got a different feel to it. It's just got that wild and fun factor. You just really don't care. You go out there with your tier 6s, and you just YOLO right on the cap, and you're just having a good time. It's a lot of fun. For some reason, though, with tier 8, it just doesn't feel that way. That feeling is gone. And you're left with this feeling that you're just playing normal ranked gameplay, not so much as a sprint. And your capacity to carry is a little more diminished at this level as well. If you're a good player, you probably noticed in previous sprint seasons, tier 6, you could probably carry on your own, and you can get to rank 1 fairly quickly. Might take a little more time this season. You might have a couple more losses than you're used to. And again, that's because you're playing tier 8. And I don't know necessarily that it's the competition you're going up against that's harder. A lot of it has to do with the ships. Some of it has to do with the inclusion of aircraft carriers, which are definitely a wild card for this type of gameplay. They do add a new dimension. So overall, I don't know that tier 8 is the right direction to go for ranked sprint. I feel it's a lot more grindy this season. Whereas in seasons past with tier 6, I flew through it, I had a blast, absolutely enjoyed it. And don't get me wrong, it's not that I'm hating this season of sprint. I'm enjoying it every now and then. I'm not loving it like I should be loving it, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it for the competitive aspect. When you get that, not always do you get that though, because we all know that players go AFK, they don't always spawn in, and they just kind of do their own thing. You say, hey, we're all going C, and you've got that one player that always goes A or B. Of course, that's the same with any ranked season. Doesn't matter if it's tier 9, doesn't matter if it's tier 6, that always happens. Doesn't matter if it's regular ranked or some ranked sprint. You always have those players. But for some reason, this season just seems a little off. Now, I'm not saying it's completely sucked the joy away from me. Like I said, I'm still enjoying it a little bit, but it does feel different. And I want to know if you all are feeling it too. Do you all feel that this season of ranked gameplay, this season of ranked sprint feels different? Do you think it's because it's tier 8? Do you think it's because we've got aircraft carriers? I want to know. Let me know in the comments of this video. Tell me what you think about this season of ranked sprint. Do you think tier 8 should be relegated to full-on ranked gameplay? Do you think that should be tier 8 and tier 9 and maybe even tier 10? And do you think the lower tier should only be available for ranked sprint? Tier 6, tier 7. I don't know. Personally, I think tier 8, and right now, this feels like a cross in between full-blown ranked gameplay and ranked sprint. And I don't know that this is necessarily the direction that I want to see sprint go. Like I said, I love tier 8 ships. Absolutely love them. Probably my favorite tier in the entire game. Ship-wise, there's just a lot of ships that bring back good memories from several years ago. This tier, like I said, Bismarck was one of my favorite ships ever. Just full secondary mode back when Bismarck was actually in the meta, where it was the meta. I love all these ships. But that being said, I don't know that these are the right ships to have in ranked sprint. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. And that's what I'm trying to help Wargaming figure out too, so that they can make next season of ranked sprint all the better. And I need your help for that. I need you to tell Wargaming what you think of this season of ranked sprint. Was this a hit or was this a miss? Is this a dud? Do you think tier 8's not the way to go and we should go back to the low tiers? Or are you enjoying it? Do you think we should stay here? Do you enjoy a slightly longer grind? And if you do, I really think that we should have some better rewards. I think the payoff right now, what is it, 10,000 coal? I just don't think that's worth it. If it's going to be tier 8 and it's going to be a little more grindy, I got to have something a little better. Maybe 1,000 steel, but then again, you're getting into resources that they like to keep hidden behind certain avenues of approach. So, I don't know. Don't know what the answer is. Again, this is an interesting season of Ranked Sprint. Want to know your thoughts. Anyhow, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you're having a great week, and I will catch you all later. Zoop out.